Lee. Kathleen, see you now. Hi, Lee.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. We heard you going up
Okay.
my sunshine. It's always fun.
Very good.
Yeah. Nice to see you. Thank you. Just waiting for a few more to come in. Hi, Jeff. Beautiful. I've just popped the success sheet, which is a bit of the worksheet. Michael has emailed it out to you, but I have just dropped it into the chat if anyone hasn't got that. And you'll see Dim in there, who's the second Sally Curtis, and he's going to just pop things and help manage any questions for me tonight. And we've got Joanna. Oh, she's not on yet. So yeah, Dim will be there just helping to coordinate any questions that come through, etc. So I've just popped into the chat just an easy way to make it easy for us to recognize any questions, so I can make sure you get your questions answered at the end of the presentation. So by all means, pop questions in them. Then in there, Dim will help me coordinate that. And beautiful. So that's all good. Hi, Joanna. Hi, Cyril. Just coming in, and David. Nice to see you again. And Mal. Beautiful. Just wait a couple more minutes so we can tick over just past the correct time and then kick off into things. For those that have just come on, I was just mentoring that got questions as we come through, just pop them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer those at the end of the presentation today as you go through. And Dim, who you can see on the screen there, the other Sally Curtis, is going to be my support person, just helping coordinate any questions and sort of putting any little extra tidbits into the chat, so you'll be able to download the chat, etc. And I will send over the video recording tomorrow or the next day to you as well, so you've got the assets so you can continue the learnings, etc. For those that don't know me, that's the little bossy Sally, the little pocket rocket that likes to make sure everybody gets really good value and has some good actions that they can continue on at home without me. So today or tonight will be lots of information, very fast pace, and hopefully you'll be able to implement some of that over time to improve some of the profitability and some of the content that you've got there as well. Hi, Sarah. Nice to see smiling faces. Thank you. Hi, Joanna. Just saw you come in, and Karen and Christo, Roshi. Beautiful. Now, what I'm just going to do, if everyone's ready to go, I like to try and keep everything on time and kicking it off. So I'll kick off and start, and I'll just pop the slides up on the screen as well. For those, if you haven't got your content repurposing success sheets, we have just popped that into the chat. Michael did send it out as a PDF as well. It just helps to, again, that's that bossy streak in me. It just helps for you to gain some of the learnings out of today so you can implement them yourselves at your own leisure. So let me just jump in and now share my screen, which means I won't see you for a little while visibly, but you'll get to interact alongside with me. And any questions, as I said, keep the questions rolling, and certainly do pop them into the chat as they come up for you, and we will kick it off. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's a privilege to be able to share this information with people and to really give you some insights into the profitability and the opportunities that you have sitting around you. So let's talk content repurposing and about turning your old collateral into new profits. And why because it's a really, really great way to leverage. And leverage simply means maximizing something to further advantage. So what I'm going to do today is share with you how you can leverage your existing content to maximize your cut through, as well as increase your results and gain higher return on investment for all those content pieces that you continue to create, and also those content pieces that you have actually created. And that's designed to help you leverage the most important asset that we all have, which is time. So it's my intention today that I'll give you some tips and insights and strategies to save you time, so you can either share that time with your loved ones or continue to serve the clients in an extraordinary manner like you do. So what I'd like you to consider and think of first is, imagine turning either the books that you've written or the articles that you've created over the last 6 or 12 months, and imagine turning them into 2 years worth of content with ease. That's effectively what I'm going to take you through in one of the strategies that I'm going to share with you today, how you can turn either your articles or the books that you've written into 2 years worth of content, and I'll walk you through that tonight. So I want to share with you why it's important right now, and it's an understatement to say that the world has changed. And a recent study by Microsoft concluded that the human attention span is actually now lower than the ill-focused goldfish. So we have an attention span of just 8 seconds, and a goldfish apparently has 9 seconds. So what this means is there's been a huge upsurge for anybody that's on LinkedIn. There's been a huge upsurge, as you would know, as it relates to direct messaging, but also in content. We're all creating a lot more content now. And this dramatic increase is starting to really exhaust our attention. Coupled with that, the fact that we all as humans like the newest, the brightest, and the latest shiny thing. We're in that stage where we're continually toggling and sort of trying to do multiple things at once. So it's actually no wonder that we're all feeling very, very fatigued. What I've also found in that report from Microsoft is that the average time spent on a single piece of content on Facebook, for example, on a desktop, is only 2.5 seconds. And on a mobile device, it's only 1.7 seconds, according to that latest report. Those that use LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a little bit higher. It is in actual fact 6 minutes. And that's simply because that platform's a little bit different. It is used as a learning and gaining knowledge and information platform. So what does this mean for content, and what does this mean for us? In a simple way, it means that we're fatigued, your clients are fatigued, and we need a way to solve both of these problems at the same time to continue to be at the top of our game. So let me give you a little bit of background on me. The last 20 years or so, I have been entrenched in the speaking, coaching, consulting, and personal development arenas. I've filled rooms for many of our Australian greats and international business leaders like Dale Beaumont, Dwayne Alley, and KPI events, just to name a few. And I currently work with thought leaders and speakers who come to me often saying, Sally, I need leverage. And that's the word that they use when they come to me. And generally that means that they're looking for new markets, or they're looking to accelerate their growth and get through the next income ceiling or the next income bracket in their business or practice. Some of the common problems, just to give you a bit of an insight around that, is that generally they're all frustrated about being stuck behind their computers instead of serving the clients in the way that they would like to. They often need a fresh eyes approach to see some of the growth opportunities that are sitting just around them, just on the outskirts. They often need improvement or simplified systems. And obviously, like all of us, they're all wanting more leads, greater cut through to increase their profits, etc. So what I do is I have for clients is I have a content repurposing agency where we do provide done-for-you services, as well as a business advisory where we do help clients to grow. So I'll explain more of that as we go through as well. Now, the reason I'm actually sharing this topic in particular, this content repurposing and turning old collateral into new profits, is because many of my clients over the last 12, 18 months have actually asked me to train their VAs or their support people in the way in which I do content repurposing. It's a way for them to leverage their resources. So because I like to share and give people as much information as I can, I wanted to be able to share that with other people as well so that they could benefit from the saving time, the gaining greater cut through and finding some more profit opportunities within that existing content that they've got. So for those that have just experiencing me for the first time, as you will have gathered, it's going to be fast paced tonight. I am fast paced and I do talk very, very quickly. I'm going to promise you that I'm going to expand your thinking, and at the end of it, you'll both be excited and tired. I'm not going to guarantee you'll sleep tonight, but I do promise you that it will certainly be worth it with some of the insights that I'm going to share with you. And as I said, as I'm going along, if there is any questions, please do just put them into the chat. Just ask everyone to mute themselves. We've just got a bit of background noise there if possible. Beautiful. Excellent. Thank you. Beautiful. So what I want to share with you today is the 3 skills from the Content Repurposing Academy that I've created, and the 3 fundamental skills that I want to go through with you tonight, so you've got something that you can action and take away with you, is first the amplification process, and that's the process of turning your book into 2 years worth of content. So I'll go through step by step with you. And then what I'll also do as the second fundamental is I'll go through with you and share the 7 steps of excellence to transforming content. Just see if I can mute. Paula, I think it might be you that's got the, if you can just mute yourself, just because we're hearing a bit of background noise, if possible. Paula? Beautiful. And then the third fundamental skill that I want to be able to share with you is some of the profit creation examples that we've been able to achieve either for myself or for clients through some of this repurposing. So we'll get into that tonight as well. So I'm going to go back to the original question that I asked, which is imagine right now how much gold you are currently sitting on. A gold mine of income and opportunities from your content and collateral that you've already created, but just at the moment you're blind to see it. And if you look around the room that you're in, I've got cupboards behind me and drawers behind me and cupboards in front of me. Just imagine what's sitting in those cupboards as content that you've previously created. So over the last few years, as a content repurposing specialist, I've helped hundreds of writers, coaches, speakers, just like many of you, who have walked past hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting around them whilst they were busily looking for the next greatest, brightest, shiniest thing. So let's do a bit of a deep dive. And for those that are just coming into the call as well, what I would love you to do is just grab a pen, either a sheet of paper or your success sheet, depending on what you've been able to print off or have handy, and grab one of your books or a book. So if you've written a book yourself, it would be great if you can grab your own book, because we're actually going to go through the amplification process, and it's great if you can do it within your own book. So I'll give you a couple of secs to just grab that. And then what we're going to also do is jump into doing a content audit. And this is why I want you to grab either the worksheet or a sheet of paper. If you haven't got the worksheet, what I'm going to ask you to do is just simply write a tick on the page for each of the content pieces that I mention out loud, just to give you a bit of an idea and help to bring some of those content pieces into view that you've got sitting around you. So what I'd like you to do is write a tick on a sheet of paper or on your worksheet for these pieces. Have you written a book? And of course, I'm going to say singular items, and many of you will have multiple of these items. So have you written a book? Do you write blogs, articles? Do you have PowerPoint presentations? I bet you've got Zoom recordings. You possibly do podcast or have done audio recordings of some form. You may even have journals that you write in each day. You may have notes where you're doing your brain dumps and sort of mapping thoughts and ideas out. You might even have old post-it notes stuck on your computer with little messages like I have. You may have photos of yourself. You may have task lists that you've created for staff, or to-do lists for yourself. You might have checklists that you use for clients. You might even have case studies, training manuals. Have you been interviewed before? Have you interviewed other people before? Have you got these little suckers, an old USB, old files, or half-written content? Have a look at that worksheet or your sheet of paper and pop into the chat how many pieces of content that you now have. And the reason I'm getting you to do this is just so you can identify already very quickly how much gold that you have. Too many to count. Yes, so very, very true. When we did this last week, one of the ladies actually started finding all of her USBs, and she's found 11 of them and started downloading material. So that's why I said some of you won't get any sleep tonight. So that's brilliant. So that, yeah, there's always lots and lots of content opportunities and profit opportunities hidden in plain sight right next to you. So again, just imagine those possibilities, the sheer potential that you've now brought into view. And it's my belief that opportunities are a daily occurrence. They are often hidden in plain sight. And it's my gift and my intent tonight that once I help you see those, you'll be able to take advantage of them and profit from them through some of these repurposing principles and fundamental skills that I'm going to share with you. So this is where it all started for me. 7 years ago, one of my mentors said to me, "Sally, you've got enough content for 6 books." And at the time, I thought he was absolutely nuts, mainly because I had no intention of writing a book, and 2, because unlike many of you, I actually don't enjoy the process of writing. Clearly, I like talking a lot more. But I had done a number of presentations, and I do like a challenge when it was thrown at my feet, and this challenge was definitely thrown at my feet. So I did listen to his words of wisdom, and I did take a 45-minute presentation that I had done along with a training manual, and I turned it into the 2 books that you can see on screen there. Now, at the time, I didn't realize that I had actually repurposed. I thought I was just published. What then proceeded to occur was over the following few years, I started to help clients actually see all of the gold nuggets that were in their books and how that they could bring those gold nuggets out of their books and turn them into graphic tiles and short posts on social media. And this is initially where our product came from, the book Amplifier, which simply is the concept of turning that book or those multiple articles into that 2 years worth of content, which you'll understand more as we continue. So that's what we're going to start off with now, is that amplify process. And the fastest way to amplify your voice, your message, and your impact is by helping your audience, which is common sense. But how do you help your audience as it relates to content? The best way you can do that is by making it easy to consume, being there consistent. So in other words, being consistently visible on social media. And by consistent, I mean your version of consistent, whether that is once a day, twice a day, or just twice a week. Whatever your level of consistency is as it relates to your audience, just be consistent in that element. And the next most important scenario is to help them make sense of their world, which is really important right at the moment, as the world is so very, very fast paced and things are changing so much and there is so much fatigue out there. People are already overwhelmed and fatigued with information, as I said at the beginning, and as per the Microsoft report. So it's very important for us as experts to be their sense maker. And if you're wanting to know what a sense maker is, or the definition of a sense maker, I've just and I'd certainly ask you to write this down, and Dim will pop it into the chat, and you'll be able to download the chat before you leave us tonight. But a sense maker is somebody that takes today's chaotic information overload and fatigue and turns elements, their content elements, into simple to understand chunks that are meaningful and relevant to the individuals, communities, or organizations that they serve. So the big question is, how do you make it simple, meaningful, and easy to consume? And that's simply, you make it bite-sized. And why we do this is because most people actually do consume their content on mobile devices, according to most of the reports that are around at the moment. And what they want to be able to do is they want to be able to see it, they want to be able to scan it, gain the gold nuggets from it, and they also want to be able to share it when it resonates with them. And bite size, as demonstrated with the graphic tiles that are on the screen, bite size makes their life easier in that split second moment that they see it, 1.7 seconds. So bite size makes it easier in that moment. It helps them connect with you and to the content from you. When it's visibly engaging, that certainly helps with that, and we'll go through that in the 7 steps of excellence. And it also enables you, when it's into those short bite-sized chunks, to create that content more consistently, because you're using smaller elements of long copy that you've created through your books and your articles, for example. And bite-sized content like this is really designed to support those overarching larger marketing and business growth campaigns that you have happening. What it does for your clients, however, is it helps to offer immediate enrichment, education, and or entertainment in their life in that moment. And that's what prompts the comments and the sharing, which then in turn helps to generate leads. And everyone's looking for more leads these days, obviously. So the nuts and bolts are, but your bite-sized content helps to amplify your larger promotions by simply making it easy to consume in the moment, and it keeps them coming back for more, which is why we need to be consistent with it. What it also does, it also helps to reinforce a lesson or create a teachable moment that amplifies the training outcomes that you do for your clients, etc., which in turn helps to amplify the trust they have in you and the curiosity engagement that they start to have with you also. And it's a great way to amplify your own unique inner genius. And this is all about, as I said, taking that long form content, your books and your articles, and turning them into bite-sized chunks, these little graphics, etc., that you can see on the slide there. And I do find personally, and for clients, that creating these graphic tiles is a really easy process to create at speed. And plus, it's also been recognised that on LinkedIn in particular, posts on LinkedIn with graphic images get around 98% better comment rates. So there's another reason to be looking at some content tiles. So let's now have a look at the amplification process. So what I'm going to do is get you to grab your book. the book that's yours. I'm going to hold the book up and direct you to have a look at the slide, whichever is easy for you. So if you've got your book in front of you, and if you haven't written a book, just grab any old book as a bit of an idea, because it'll give you a good story to tell over coffee with somebody. So if you grab your book, logic tells us that the very front cover will have, and the title on the front cover will have a good indication of what the topic theme is. And in my case, the topic theme or the key topic is business networks or networking. So that's going to be the overarching topic theme or content theme for the tiles that could be created from this book as an example. What I want you to do next is just go to the index page or your table of contents. And when you open this up for the very first time, when you haven't looked at it for a while, what I want you to do, and it is as simple as this, guys and girls, it is as simple as this, just simply scan that page and see what leaps off the page at you. What do you notice first above all else? And in my case, again on the screen, I've highlighted there in green the things that jumped off the page for me at the time. And basically they're the title chapters, and they are going to become your topic elements for the theme of networking. What I want you to do next is select one of those chapters and just jump into that chapter. So what we've just done is a quick recap while you're doing that. We've had a look at the front cover. We've determined what the content topic is. Now we've looked at the index to see what some of the topic elements could be. Now we're looking at the chapter to see what little gold nuggets we can pull out of that chapter. And in my example, again on the screen, we've got a quote at the top. We've got a key message, which I've highlighted in green. We've got a fact there, and we've got some tips or some action steps. So in your case, have a look for just one or two sentences within each paragraph or each section, because it's these little simple one-liners, one paragraphs, or little elements that jump off the page is what you can turn into your bite-sized content that can go adjacent and complement a little short post on social media, which then has your context as well as your content pieced together. And this is how you actually amplify your own content, by having the visibility as well as the credibility piece, the explanation above, and this helps to improve your reach to your audience. Plus what it's also doing by pulling all of those little bite-sized chunks out of your book is you're starting to build a library of reusable brand assets, because your book and the content within your book is relevant all of the time for the audiences that you serve. So by breaking it down into those small bite-sized chunks, you're actually creating a reusable brand asset, which helps to reduce the stress of always needing to create new content. So here on the screen are the examples that I was able to create just from that quick scenario that we went through. So we looked at the front cover, we looked at the index page and one of the chapters. And just very quickly, just looking at that index page and those quick chapters, I was able to create 11 content pieces, including tiles, informations, etc., and the short copy, which is exactly what you're able to do. So here, these are just graphic examples of some of the content that we've created from pulling it out of your book. Here are some of the client examples, just to demonstrate that there's lots of different ways and styles that you can in actual fact create your Canva tiles. And for anybody that's not sure how you would go about doing that, it's simply good old Canva. So I can share that with you more later, but most people are familiar with Canva now. But you can see here on this slide, we've got some tiles that are just simply wording, but they're very visually appealing and very attention grabbing. And then I've got the ones here in blue. These are Nancy. She's just relaunched a book and rebranded and recovered the book, and she's just got some of the content elements from her book, etc. there as well. So as we go through the second fundamental skill that I want to share with you, which is transformation, you'll get more of an idea as to how you can go through that. So that app, I just saw that come up, was canva.com. It's basically a platform where you can create all of these graphic tiles, etc. And that's exactly what we've used to create all of the content, including the slides that I'm sharing with you tonight. So you'll have a world of fun discovering that new tool. Thank you for the person that's popped that in there. Appreciate that. So let's jump into transform. And what I want to share with you here is the process or the 7 steps of excellence that we use when we go through the content repurposing process for clients, especially when we're going through the book repurposing process as well. But firstly, a little bit of context. HubSpot says that content marketing strategy, that term, content marketing strategy, is the most common searched term relating to content marketing. So the way I've interpreted that is, and in my experience, is the reason we're always searching for content marketing strategy is we get lost in why we create content, which fundamentally is to drive sales, and we get stuck simply in creation mode for the sake of creating. Hence the reason why many of us, as we build and grow our businesses, have those cycles of fatigue and no return on investment. And we've all experienced that at different times. So I don't have time to go through content marketing strategy as such today, because obviously that's not today's topic. But I do want to share this little takeaway, which really changed the way I looked at creating content and how I look at creating the 2 styles of content when it comes to supporting our clients. And there's 2 types of content. There's relationship building, and then there's revenue driving. So your relationship building, in essence, is your marketing. That's both the planned content that you schedule regularly, as well as those in the moment posts that you do. So say, for example, you're setting up an event, or in the days that when we used to be able to catch a flight saying we're going to attend an event or speak at an event, we take photos of that. Those in the moments or on the run posts, they're the relationship building posts and content pieces. Now, your revenue driving or your business development pieces, they're the pieces that are strategic, directional, and have more of a choreographed approach that leads them to something. So it's leading them to join you at an event, leading them to a webinar or to download something, etc. It's leading them to something. Because content is both about having the right strategy as well as efficiencies, so you can win business and gain speed into the new markets that we're all looking for without burning yourself out and creating more fatigue. Okay, so what we're going to dive into now is step 1 through to step 7 of transforming your content. So the very, very first step is looking through eagle eyes. And this is focusing through the lens of your ideal target market's eyes, as well as your strategy. So it's very important to know, obviously, who they are, what their desires are, what their challenges, etc. are. And you all have heard that before, but it's always worth repeating. And that's the bossy Sally coming out again. But when you consider that, I want you to ask yourself a key question. And that key question is, what am I selling for this quarter? And or what events do I have coming up? And the reason why it's so important to ask that question and have that question even as a post-it note on your computer is because it helps you to focus on revenue driving content, which is your content that is profitable. Okay. The second step is the extraction process. And we effectively demonstrated that very quickly when we went through the book process. It is simply scanning through your content pieces intuitively. It's with a highlighter pen or a pencil or whatever works for you and looking intuitively for what jumps off the page. That is as simple as the extraction process is. You don't need to overcomplicate it any more than that. And here's just another example that I'll go through. It's as opposed to a book example where we went through the book amplification process previously. We're now just going to go through a quick scenario of an article. So this article here, for example, the theme of this article, let me just grab that here, to give you some context from a printed perspective, it's printed across 4 pages. As you can see, the font's quite large, so it's not a huge amount of copy on there. I don't know the word count as such, but it's not a huge article from a comparison perspective. But if you have a look at the main title, it was about motivating teams. So that was the main theme of the article. And if you just have a look on the slide, you can see there that I've highlighted the article in a couple of different highlighted colours. And this is just to sort of demonstrate that there's different types of content that we all create within our articles. And in this example, we've got numbered dot points, which usually indicate that that's a good or it's very important information. Also highlighted there in green, as well as the dot points, I've highlighted any questions that the person has asked or posed in the article. I've also highlighted in yellow tips that the person that wrote the article has provided. In the pink are some fundamentals, or in his words, foundations that is mentioned in the article. And in the blue I've highlighted some coaching principles that you can see there, principles that he suggested great coaches should adopt. Now that one article, we were able to create 12 social media posts and associated tiles from it into that bite-sized content that we've been talking about. And on the screen there are just some very, very quick examples of how we were able to turn that content into those visual tiles that we've used on Canva. So there really is gold in all of that content that you are all naturally creating. So let's have a look now at how we need to evaluate it, which is step 3. So you're finding your content and you'll end up with bucket loads of it. That's the next thing to work through. With that content that you've actually now found, it's very important to now evaluate it with fresh eyes based on your ideal target market's needs in the moment. Because this is where it shifts about, it's not about us and what we like, oh, I like that piece of content. It's, does it serve my audience? Is it relevant to my audience? Does it help them make sense of their world, like we mentioned before? And often when I'm working with coaches and consultants and speakers, etc., we are often our clients, but a few years ahead. So in other words, the clients that we have are often versions of ourselves earlier in the journey. So it's very important that we evaluate that content based on their needs, because knowing that we are further down the track, we need to think maybe a little bit retrospectively for them. So have a look at those content pieces and evaluate it based on, is it educational? Is it inspirational? Does it provide tools? Can I provide tools and tips, or a teachable moment? Can I tell a story that will give them an insight? What is it that you can provide to them when you evaluate it that helps them move forward on their journey? Step 4 is the evolution. And this has a very interesting phrase that sort of stumps people a little bit, and that's the money is in the boring. And what I mean by this is, as I mentioned before, that many of us have actually grown or evolved and have newer insights and newer information, more so than our clients that we serve. And it's very natural, because we get excited by it, that we want to share that latest information. But in some cases, it's actually too detailed. So there's an opportunity, and there's also profit that lies in that older content that we're bored by. Why? Because, as I mentioned, our clients are often further down the track than us, and they need that information to be able to gain traction along the track with us. If at the same time you really, really don't want to deliver it, because that's not what I'm suggesting, if you're really over it but you don't want to deliver it, it can be an opportunity where, if you don't want to deliver it anymore, you can create it or collaborate with somebody that does serve a similar audience to you, where you can create joint ventures and cross promotions, etc. Plus that older content, if you repurpose it and turn it into online forms of content or education, it can and will open up new markets for you, because you'll be bringing in some of those newer clients that you've moved too far ahead of, but it'll enable you to bring those new clients so they can catch up and come along that journey with you. So it's a great way to open up new markets, which is why I say that there's money in the boring. Now, this slide is one of my rant and soapbox slides. So I'm going to say it how I usually say it to my audience. And for those that know me, they're going to be rolling their eyes right now. I'm going to say educate, educate, educate. And the reason I do this is, on my website I have an influence diagnostic which helps people to work out what elements is missing both in their marketing and their business development. And out of the 12 elements that report finds or produces, the number one element that's missing in most of the reports that have been filled out in the last 2 years is most people miss out on educating their audience. And the reason I get on a soapbox about this is, our goal is to educate them, and is to give them forward movement without us. E.g., they don't need to buy from us straight away. They can have forward movement by following us and consuming our bite-sized content. When you help them in that way, you will be rewarded with their loyalty, their referrals, and then their business, often in that order. So I'm going to repeat that. Your goal is to give them forward movement without you. And in doing that, you will be rewarded with their loyalty, their referrals, and then their business, often in that order. So here's some additional examples of content tiles or graphic tiles, again created on Canva. And these are what I would call more of the educational element. Again, we've got Nancy's up there demonstrating her book, but talking about how it creates community. And then you've got some of the philosophies that she has within the book. So it's educating them about what some of the content is within the book. Then you've got a few versions of mine where I'm doing the do's and don'ts of social selling or creating content. And they're just examples of little ways that you can educate in bite-sized ways. The next step in the 7 steps of excellence for content transformation is a motive. And a picture paints 1,000 words. Pictures connect us to stories, and they connect us to the emotion of those stories that we tell ourselves through seeing the visuals. Images bring our audience closer to us. They really help to build a connection, and we all want the connection to be, oh my God, they get me, which is what a really well thought out visual will actually enable you to do. Because what a great image does is it helps them imagine the possibilities. It helps them see their aspirations, envision their own transformation, and most importantly, it helps them identify themselves as a potential client of yours. So imagine, see, envision, and identify. And I'm going to demonstrate that for you now with an example here. So when you look at this slide, and there's 6 slides on there, there's one simple message that Alexandra has, and that is assess, don't guess. So that's her mantra, that's her soapbox. But when you look at the collection of tiles that are actually on the screen, there's 3 different image groups and there's 3 different target markets. So I'm going to ask you, what are Alex's target markets? And I'll get you to pop it in the chat. Yep, beautiful. Yep, brilliant. So, yep, nailed it. Yep, well done. Spot on. So, oops, let me just go back. So what we've got here is, as you said there, you've got 3 simple client target markets. You've got a variety of 3 versions of the image. What's happening there is the image is positioning the viewer. They're able to say, yes, I'm an athlete, or yes, I'm a CEO and executive, or yes, I'm a caregiver. When an audience sees that, they self-identify, so that's why an image will help position the viewer. And that in itself is the power of having the right visual, is it actually gives you cut through in a few short split seconds and gets your message out, because it finds and positions the viewer in a very crowded marketplace. So the next step, and the last step in the 7 steps of excellence, is the engage process. And this is also probably the secondary one that I see most people miss. And I believe that all social media posts and tiles are designed to lead people to a destination. And that's how you create it into a revenue driving strategy, as well as an experience of you. So that's sort of a reminder here at this point that content is both relationship building, which is what the images help to do, as well as revenue driving, which is what helps them consume and connect with you through your call to actions, through your invitations. And that's why it's so important to add those call to actions, those directions for them to do something next. It's part of the process to lead them on a journey so they feel like they're alongside you and with you, and you with them. And it's the greatest way to start creating conversations with them. And through conversations come conversions. Beautiful. So what I want to jump into now, because I'm conscious of time, is to have a look at the 3rd fundamental, which is the profit creation element. And this is going to go through some examples of ways in which you can create new profits for yourselves. So we're effectively now moving from the books and the articles onto the larger collateral pieces, which are things like your training manuals, videos, presentations that you've done, PowerPoints, those sorts of things. So let me give you some examples. So I'm going to ask the question, did you know that a 45-minute presentation can create 1 ebook, a half-day training program, 4 articles, and 15 plus tiles and social media posts? That's 1 45-minute presentations. And how many have you done? We've all done so many. And it's just a case of recording them. But if I was to ask you, if you've done a 45-minute presentation to a group, and let's say you turned that 45-minute presentation into a half-day training, because of course your presentation will be stepped out, so it's easy to convert it into a half-day training, what could you sell that for? You know, would you be selling it for hundreds of dollars, $500 or more, or thousands of dollars? there's opportunities to create new profitability in all the content that you've actually already created, because it's about both productizing as well as repurposing, which are both great ways to increase your profitability and or create a reoccurring income through some of those online programs or easy to buy downloadable products, etc. What if you haven't recorded them? Sue's just asked. I just caught that out of the corner of my eye, Sue. Thank you. If you haven't recorded them, it's now time to start recording them. Whenever I do anything, I've always got a lapel mic and a spare iPhone tucked in my back pocket, or I'm running Otter, which is another app you can get on your phone, and I've just got that handy. What that does is it actually helps me transcribe it, and that's how I do a lot of the content repurposing, is through transcribing different varieties of speeches, etc. that I do, and or obviously videoing them. So it's about creating the opportunities for yourself to answer that question there as well. Yeah, webinars, Zoom recordings, playbacks, etc. So let me jump into another one, just to give you a rattle the brain cells, or rattle the cage, like I say. Here's a crazy example of what we were able to do with a client. So this client had created a book. It was an ebook, but it was about 100 pages, which is the same size as my book. So we're just going to call it a book. He created a book. One of my friends interviewed him on that book around the 6 brand stories, which equated to 3 hours of video footage. That video footage that was just 3 hours, we were able to turn into 32 short videos and 300 plus tiles and short posts for social media. And it was him that has actually coined the phrase when he said to me, "Sally, that's 2 years worth of content done." That was when I realized and I truly understood the power that we all have when we become content repurposers. And that's the power that you have in your hands. So at this point, I'm going to ask you, are you freaked out and or a little bit excited by what you actually have sitting around you? There's so much opportunity yeah, both loving it. Great. Thank you. As I said, many of you may not sleep tonight, and I'm not responsible. So yeah, bit of fun there. I'm gonna rattle another cage with this one. I'm going to ask you, and I mentioned this at the very beginning, and you may have put a tick down, how many of these little suckers have you got sitting in drawers somewhere with lots of content pieces on it? I have files on these called printing. There's gold in that printing file. Here is a little example of mine. I did, and this is going back quite a number of years, I did another presentation. This was before I started recording my presentations, but in this case I was lucky enough that somebody, the person I was speaking at the event, did have a videographer there, so we did in actual fact record this event. It was a 90-minute presentation. It was recorded live. What I went on to do fairly closely after creating or doing that presentation was I did actually edit that big video down into 9 other videos, into smaller videos. But then it sat on this USB for a very long time until I thought, oh, I might be able to do something with that. And I was trying to work out and write articles and do some content. So I actually got those videos transcribed. That transcription, because it was again laid out because I'd done a presentation, I did turn into a 2-day masterclass and a content book that went with that masterclass, like a training manual. And then when I found all of those assets sitting on this USB, I was able to bring that all together and turn it into an online mini program. All starting from a 90-minute presentation, transcriptions that turned into a training manual, and then bundling them all together to create a new product through content that I'd previously created. So what I want to do now is share with you the steps as I see them as it relates to creating new profits. And basically I see the steps as these: revamping, transforming, building, and bundling. Just saw something about Wealth Dynamics Create. Yeah, I work with lots of creator mechanics, as you can imagine, so and creator stars. So I understand what you're saying there. Beautiful, thank you. So revamping, let me just get back on track. Revamping is about discovering all of the possible content pieces that you have. It's about looking for the opportunities through those eyes, and that's those 7 transformational elements that we talked about. And it's about trialing your ideas. It's about practicing content repurposing or repurposing, because what this revamping does is it actually helps you to increase your ability to see and act on these new skills that I've shared with you today. And again, that's the Bossy Sally coming out. So that's all of it. It's all about revamping. It's practice, practice, practice. The second step is the transforming, which of course we went through in a little bit more detail in the 7 steps of excellence. Key message: make it visually appealing, make it engaging, and make it really relevant to your target market so they can make sense of their world. The building component, this is formed only when you have started repurposing a few times, because what you start to do is build a library of assets. And when you've got a library of assets, you can then mix and match, just like you do with the wardrobes, just like you do with ingredients when you're cooking. You can mix and match things, but you can't do that unless you've gone through some repurposing processes. So the third phase is building. It's mixing and matching. When you've got the assets and you've got the ability to start mixing and matching based on what your client's looking for, you can then go into that bundling process. And bundling assets into new offerings, like I did with my example of the presentations into products. You can also turn those new offerings into lead magnets, and it's a great elements to package up to create cross-promotion offerings with other people and finding collaborative partners that you can share that content with, so you can bring in new income streams for each other. And it's a great way to grow your list and build your audience through working collaboratively with other people. So that's the 4 steps. I'm just going to share one more quick tip with you around content repurposing. And that's just to say, don't disregard a crumpled up single or duplicate sheet of paper, because this is one of mine that I found when I was going through putting this presentation together and the academy together. It really was a tattered sheet of paper, but it caught my attention because it had my scribble all over it. But what got my attention was there was numbers down the side of it. And usually when you see numbers, that's a step-by-step process. And people, your audience, by step-by-step processes, they want to know the how-to. They want to be led on the journey. So anytime you see dot points or step-by-steps, it's an opportunity for you to potentially create it into a product. And this was just some brain dump thoughts that I'd had with typed and written notes, that I was able to map out the steps of how I've helped clients unpack their inner genius. And then I'm going to be able to create that into another type of productization. So there's some quick tips on how you can create some new profits for yourselves. But what I'd like to now ask you is, what have you now started to see that was hidden in plain sight, that you now have the opportunity to both amplify, transform, or turn into new profits for yourself? All the gold you're sitting on, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and don't we sit on a whole lot of gold? We just don't realize how much is actually there. Yeah, it's totally overwhelming. From that perspective, it's now just deciding, what your topic pieces are going to be, etc. So great, thanks for putting all that into the Oh, I saw it, didn't know the step by step. Yeah, beautiful. Now you've got at least a little bit of insight of how you can start mapping out some of those steps. Awesome. Brilliant. So I'm glad that you've all seen some stuff. The bossy Sally is going to ask you to please write those teachings down and put a little action plan together so you can actually get back to it and implement it for yourself, so you don't waste the time that you've spent with me, because it's a very, very valuable resource. Awesome. Thanks, Judith. Nice to see you on the call. Thank you. That's awesome. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit now about what we do as far as the Content Repurposing Academy goes, for those that may be interested, just to give you a little bit of insight. So for those that are looking at what, how could we move forward, I'm just going to share that historically, my success comes from understanding the clients that I work with, and I'm going to call them Fred, Mary, and Cindy, just to make it nice and easy. And here's why. So Fred is typically a solopreneur. It's just him and his business, and he usually is looking for clarity and direction as it relates to gaining new profit opportunities. Fred usually needs a systemized approach, that's step by step, and he wants to be supported by an expert in their community, as well as he's really keen to increase leads. Now Mary, she's a little bit different because she has support. She's somebody that does have either a VA, a business manager, or a social media manager that actually helps her in her business. What she generally looks for from us is she looks for a proven content strategy that actually both supports as well as creates new opportunities for her by opening up new markets and generating more sales or higher sales. Cindy, now she's different again. She is that support person to the thought leader or to the business owner. So she is that social media manager or the admin manager, that golden person that gets stuff done for us. And generally Cindy wants to understand the fundamentals of how she goes about creating new profit opportunities at speed, and she needs the strategic training to be able to really truly, for her to help her clients grow in the manner that she wants to be able to do that. So at this point, whether you're sort of Fred, Mary, or Cindy, or a bit of a combination, or you're not really sure because I've said too much too fast for you and your brains have exploded, that's totally cool. If you're not sure, then that's cool. I'm very, very happy to do a one-on-one conversation with anybody that wants to have a chat with me about if, buts, possibilities, or how they go about doing anything. I'm more than happy to have those private conversations with you. And Dim will pop my calendar booking system into the chat for me if he hasn't already. And then that will give you a chance to have a conversation with me if you would like. For those that want to know a little bit about the Content Repurposing Academy, in full transparency, because I don't do smoke and mirrors, I just like to lay it all out there for people. Again, here's the snapshot of what it would consist of for those that want to go through the learning process versus us doing it for them. The Content Repurposing Academy is a 12-week program. I think it's very important that if you do have a support person, that you give them the ability and opportunity to come along with you so they can actually support you, and you can bring that person along for free. I've got the start date is next Monday at this same next Wednesday at this same time, so the 8th of September. It's actually not, just on that screen there, that was from a presentation I did this morning. It's at the same time, which is 7:30 South Australian time, so that'll convert, but I'll sort that out when I send the link out. The whole process with the Content Academy is it's very much online learning, because there's a whole plethora of videos that I've repurposed that'll take you through all the steps. But it's very important that I'm there to hold your hand and provide the support and help you with systems on a weekly basis as well. So there'll be live masterminding in hot seats with me each week, as well as the online learning that you can do at your own pace. The whole idea is that you can drop in and out as much as you want, as often as you need. The payment, there's payment options there. There's also a code to get that price as well. And I'll ask Dim if he can also pop in the separate link for anybody that is interested in that. So you've got the option to either have a conversation with me or jump in and have a look at that. The bottom line is it's my systems, my tool, my support as and when you need it most. And I just would like to say thank you very, very much for joining me tonight. The choice is very much in your hands. Would love to speak to anybody that's wanting to have a conversation with me. I'm very happy to stay online and answer any questions that have popped in the chat that I haven't seen, because there was a lot happening in there. And I'm happy to stay on and talk to anybody that would love to. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen, and I'll see you in a little bit bigger view. I know you're still there as me. Thank you for if there's any questions that you have seen in there, if you can let me know. I've got a couple of direct messages there. Beautiful. Beautiful. Glad that you've got lots. Yep, lots of USBs. So thank you for those people that are there. If anyone's got a question, either come off mute, ask the question, pop it in the chat, whichever you'd prefer. I'm happy to answer any questions if people have them.
So 2 questions that I received during the chat, which is awesome. So thank you, everybody. First question was, I wonder, oh, here we go. Where do you host all your video replays for your audience to watch? They aren't Zoom recordings in the cloud, are they?
No. So I'm a content repurposing person, but I'm also a very resourceful person. So my strategy is I either have those recordings and trainings as Facebook groups, or they are in Google Drive or Dropbox. Until I've sold enough of them that it warrants putting them on a professional platform that's a paid platform, I do not do that. I do it in, as I said, Dropbox, Google Drive, or Facebook groups is where I host that information that people can access. It's free. It's my way of testing the market and whether it's relevant for the market. And then I can also get I get real-time feedback as to ways to improve it. So I don't spend or invest in bigger proper programs until it's really warranted. But that's my mum resourcefulness coming out in me, which
That's awesome. That's the only question I had. You answered everything else.
Excellent. Just sent me beautiful. Thank you. I've got a couple of messages there. Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Monica. I've just got you there. Do you have a question? No, just heading off. Beautiful. Thank you. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad everyone's got some information out of that. That's really good. Again, happy to stay on if anyone wants to ask any more questions. Otherwise, I'll let you enjoy your evening with your family, because that's what it's all about. Beautiful. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Sue. See you again. See you, Sue. Cheers. Beautiful. Just going to save the chat. Excellent. Fantastic.